So you obviously went through an evolution or thought. You were not trained when you went to school to be a teacher.
Right.
And your student teacher didn't talk about rapping, but clearly somewhere along the way, it kind of connected. So, let's just talk about your educational career.
Okay.
How did that get going?
Basically, I had a teacher, an English teacher that was excellent.
Uh-huh.
And she cared about me as a person.
Right.
And so I said, if I ever did that, that's the kind of teacher I wanted to be. Well, I ended up not wanting to get into teaching.
Right.
I wanted to get into being a news anchor.
Okay.
But after graduating from college and not finding a job right away, I did substitute teaching.
Okay.
So I walked in one day, and these students were having issues with some English, and I was able to help them. And the girl said, I wish I had a teacher like you. That's so easy now. I got it.
Right.
So that kind of clicked in.
Okay.
It made me want to continue to help people, inspire people for things to get better and easier and fun.
Right.
Because if you can get people to internalize it, it's not memorized.
Right.
And so I just really, really had a great time with that. And then God gave me so many creative juices that I was never inside of a box. I saw teachable moments in so many different things in so many different ways.
Sure. And
I had fun too. And sometimes I would say, "Oh God, did I really do that?" Yeah, I did. So. Mm-hmm.
So you went out. You really wanted to be a broadcaster.
Yes.
That was. Did you go to school for that, or was that just something you had this kind of passion for?
Well, my major was English.
Okay.
My concentration was media journalism. So yes, broadcasting, newspaper. But every year I go to Channel 11 and I bake them a bunch of goodies and I get to interview them, and that gives me a chance to be at the desk.
Sure.
So that always fulfills that sensation of what if I were sitting here delivering the news.
Right, right. So where were you looking for jobs originally? I guess in the Triangle or this area or Greenville?
Yeah, Triangle.
Yeah, okay, gotcha.
Because I felt they were a little bit more progressive and more challenging.
Sure.
So, Yeah.
But then you ended up obviously doing some substitute teaching. You decided, well, you know what, this is cool. So what was that evolution? Because now you got to go through a student-teacher process. It's not easy just to decide you want to be a teacher, which personally I find to be a little bit of a challenge. We don't have enough teachers. Unless you have a teaching certificate, it bars you from sitting in the classroom. And there are a lot of people, particularly if they're older, that are not going to want to go back and get that certificate. That can bring a lot of value to the classroom. Now, and I'll certainly understand that we don't want just anybody teaching our kids either, right? So there's a other side of that. So I get it. But so how did you decide? I mean, you said, well, let me go become a student teacher?
Well, yeah, I said I could have that as a backup.
Okay.
But the more classes I took, the more involved and intrigued that I was. What are some different ways that I could teach to make it fun? What are some different ways that I could teach to make it easier?
Right.
And I felt, if people weren't bombarded with, subject-verb agreement is so boring.
Right.
And I even wrote a rap about that. And that's how I started rapping, really, to change it up a little bit.
Sure.
And then students retained it. And I said, okay, well, I'll keep writing. And that inspired the educational rapper in me.
Well, and of course, I grew up with, Schoolhouse Rock, Saturday mornings, right?
Yeah.
So a version of what you're talking about. But I really hated conjugating sentences. And oh, my gosh, that was probably the part I really didn't like. So I'm going to put you on the spot, at least now or later. I want to hear all about that rap because maybe I'll learn something from that.
Okay. Well, basically, everything that I do, it has the rule in it, so you'll remember the rules so you can do the work.
Right.
So the rule is, if the subject is plural, the verb is plural. If the subject is singular, the verb is singular.
Right.
If you don't know the rule, then you can't do the work.
That's right.
And then singular means, then you say one, and plural means several.
That's right.
And the raps are always interactive, so the people or the students will also have a part where they have to be engaged and talk back to me.
Right.
So that's how they would remember it. And then I would do it off of an instrumental song that they like.
Okay.
So that's how it started.
So just working it back and forth, and obviously there's a retention rate.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know if you took the time to measure it. I mean, clearly, intuitively, you're seeing results, or you wouldn't have continued.
Correct.
But what do you think the impact of that's been? I mean, 20% more, 30% more retention?
I think it was
100%.
It was so popular that other teachers would ask me when I taught that, could they bring their classes in?
How about that?
And the kids were like, oh, man, she raps. Can we go back in there another time? So, I was just really pleased that they were eager to learn and wanted more.
Well, have you ever considered doing like a series of these?
I would love to, but I need a context so that, could keep going.
Sure.
Like I wrote an EOG rap.
Yeah, right.
And it just so happens I was looking online for an activity towards the end of school, before that. And there's a song called the Double Dutch Bus.
Okay.
And so when I looked on YouTube, they have a Double Dutch Bus challenge when you lay out this scale on the floor, and it's like hopscotch.
Right.
And so,
so
you do it to that
Dutch,
music.
Yeah,
right.
I know the jump rope.
But it just so happens that I had written my Pass the EOG song off of that music.
Okay.
So we would do the rap.
Yeah.
And the students were interactive with that, and then I would show them doing the challenge. So I mixed it all together. But any kind of dance that we did, like when I teach following directions,
right.
It's always something like a dance or something like that they can remember.
Right.
So I make everything intertwined together and make it fun.
I get it. Well, that's the whole point, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you got to know all the rules where you can break them.
Yes.
You got all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
And I've heard that all my life, but for me, it was just rote memorization, which is not fun. But but you can beat yourself into submission if you're really intending on it. But it's not the most fun process.
Yes.
So how long were you teaching before you realized that the rap was a way to reach kids?
It was about 5 years.
Okay.
I just felt like, and it was really crazy because I would be riding to school and I would try to think of ways that I could make it more interesting for them. It seemed like God just gave it to me because I usually write a song in 15 minutes.
Oh, wow. What a talent.
Yeah, and I put you in one of my songs as well.
I hope it was a good one.
Yes. I was a state commissioner appointed by 4 different governors for the Martin Luther King Commission.
Sure.
And that's when I met you at one of the programs. And so at the beginning, I have different celebrities to say, share the dream, because that's the name of the song.
Right.
In honor of Dr. King. And you said it. So this past year, we showed it on my TV show.
Awesome. Well, I want to see a tape on that.
Yeah, I have to send you the link.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So tell me a little bit about the Martin Luther King Commission for the state. I mean, that's quite an honor. 4 different governors to sit on that, a statewide concept. So just walk us through that. That's cool.
Okay, we were all sworn in.
Yeah.
Supreme Court Justice Paul Newby swore me in.
Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, he is so cool. I just love him to death.
He is.
So we were interested in spreading the message about unity and diversity throughout the state on a continuous basis. So from my song Share the Dream, I created the Share the Dream talent show, and all of the money that was raised was donated back to people who supported children's programs.
Right.
And to make sure that message that Dr. King said, character is what you are when no one's looking. A mind is a terrible thing to waste.
Right. And
we need to love each other.
Right.
Regardless, we need to, and understand each other. That's one of the biggest parts.
Right.
So I did that. I participated in different programs throughout the state and conferences on behalf of the commission.
So how do we enhance that? I agree with you 100%. My mother, all of my life, has said relationship is all that matters. Relationship is life. I mean, Jesus even died on the cross for relationship. So we put it in that context, and I know you, and I know your soul, and I know who you are, then now we're talking at a level that transcends politics, transcends so many different things. How do you get folks there on a wholesale basis? It's so hard. I mean, I see great strides and beautiful people of all races and creeds and religions, but then it feels like we step backward sometimes, and then we move forward. And what's been the recipe? What did you see in all those years of the experience that was the most effective at bringing people together? Because that's really what you're talking about.
I think that if we have different mediums such as television commercials, when they see you doing something, you set the tone, you set the example. When we have sessions with our communities, we have projects that like my kids sometimes will study a story, and then they have to create a comic strip based on the theme of that. So that's something fun. And then you have to display it and let other people see it.
Okay.
So there are different ways to do that,
right,
to make them become engaged, to make the community understand that you are a part of everything that we do.
That's right.
And if we come together, look at what the end result is.
Right.
For example, a line dance.
Okay.
Everybody has to follow the directions, right?
Yeah, I've always that funny on the end, though, but keep going.
If one person is not going in the same direction, it's very obvious.
Right.
So if we do more things where we can collaborate with each other,
right,
and also have a voice, because they need to understand why you feel that way. And then there's a strategy I use called philosophical chairs.
Right.
I teach AVID. Okay, AVID is advancement via individual determination to prepare kids for college.
Okay.
So what you do is you have a prompt, and once the audience listens to the prompt, you have signs up, yes, no, maybe. So after they listen to the prompt, then they go near what they agree with, yes, no, maybe.
Right.
Then each person has to tell support why they chose that answer.
Right.
So you could be first, and I could be standing by no, but after you gave your reason, then I moved to maybe.
Sure.
So
but there's no right or wrong answer.
Right.
There's no judgment in this.
Right.
It's just how I feel.
Right.
And I've
It's
got
how
to support
you feel.
that.
Yes, and you're explaining why.
Right. And it's also an exercise in keeping your mind open.
Yes.
Because if I'm listening to you, and that changes my perspective, well, then I need to change my answer.
Exactly.
That's cool.
So
how many times do you do that? That's just really neat. I've never heard of an exercise like that.
Yeah. And AVID teaches all kinds of ways for public speaking,
Right.
writing, applying for college, researching for colleges. So that's just one of the strategies that's being used. But I think everybody has a voice,
Right.
and everybody needs to know that their voice is important. And I think once we start doing that, having more, like if you had a session with young people, a show, they used to have a show called Teen Summit on BET. And so you could go up there with a panel of experts, and the young people would be up there and they would ask them questions.
Right.
And so once they feel that their participation is valuable, they'll open up to you more. You might learn more than you want to learn, but it's a really good way to get them involved in their own, like voting or community involvement. They don't understand how much they mean to it.
Right. Well, everything we do has consequence, right? And some consequences are very positive. I mean, consequences are not necessarily negative. But you're right. Voting, they're just a mere act of voting. What we just saw is a city council race where the leading vote getter only 2 votes. And neither one of them, the two biggest vote count, got 50%. So we have a runoff.
Okay.
But my point is 2 votes. 2 votes could absolutely decide the difference in who is representing you, and that matters. It does matter.
It really does.
And your vote is your voice. It is an input in the process. And a lot of people died for that right.
That's right. That's right.
But yes, that's just awesome.
Yeah.
So what a treasure you are. Thank you so much for what you're doing. But so talk a little bit more about, how'd you get the name Lady J?
Okay. So I had completed a rap, and this particular rap was about character.
Okay.
And the student said, you can't use your name because that's not cool.
Okay.
How about Lady J?
All right.
Well, I fought it for a while because, teachers are supposed to be so professional. And so then I said, okay, well, that sticks.
Yeah.
So Lady J was...
But you still go into character back and forth, right?
Yeah, but it's yeah, I do.
I
do.
Yeah.
But that stuck. And a lot of people remember that very quickly. If I say that, I know who it is.
Right.
And that's like branding. That's what they call branding.
Sure.
And so it's real easy to brand myself with
that.
Well,
that's fantastic. So how long have you been teaching?
I've been teaching 20 years.
Wow. Wow. You don't look old enough to be teaching for 20 years.
Thank you.
But so what are you finding to be the differences and challenges in the classroom since the day you began to now? And what can me or anybody in the community do to help and assist and promote teachers of great quality? Because at the end of the day, there's nothing, in my opinion, that levels the playing field for everybody other than a solid education. Now, what you do with it becomes your decision, but that's the basis that can level the playing field the most. So I know I gave you like 17 questions in one there, but we'll break it down.
Well, basically, I think that, first of all, you have to be responsible, because I do lessons on responsibility and collaboration, and I just break them down to let them see how important each one is.
Right.
It's very important for you to be responsible, because especially now, I mean, now they have the internet, they have free websites where you can improve your comprehension, your math, all subject areas. We have Google Classroom where all of your lessons are. So if you miss school, you're still responsible for doing the work.
Okay.
So if you're not responsible enough, you will come back to class a couple of days later and say, well, I was out. Okay, but the work was still online for you.
Right.
I mean, if you can look at a movie, a TV show, play a game, your education comes first, because that moves you forward.
Sure.
So, and parents, come on, parents, that's a tough one, because they'll say, well, my child didn't do this or do that. They did.
Right.
You were a kid when you were away from your parents. You did. And a lot of times we're under peer pressure, so we do things we would not normally do at home around our family. So trust me, if a teacher tells you, I put it, most teachers, because you know you got
they're outliers.
Yeah, they did it, and we don't have especially now we don't have a whole lot of time to play with. So if I call you and tell you that he's doing that, he is doing that.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was interviewed just today on WRL, and they were asking us about the Wi-Fi expansion that has been proposed for Rocky Mount. It's a private company. Will come in, put the infrastructure in. How big of an impact has it been to have broadband, or first of all, are you seeing a lot of access to broadband within your teaching population? And if so, what's the quality of that been? Because that was one of the questions that was posed to me, and I want to see if I got it right.
Okay. Well, you put me on the spot. I'm going to flunk this quiz.
No,
okay.
There's no wrong answer here, a right answer.
Well, people always say it depends on your location as to whether it's clear or not. And then you have some people who, they seek it, and then you have people who don't, and it's just another excuse. So you kind of don't really know. But for those that can, we appreciate it, because the internet is serious now. I mean, it's really, you really don't have an excuse for not knowing now. I mean, there's so many free websites, educational websites about, like I said, every subject area. There's information out there for, like this summer. I suggest everybody get a library card.
Right.
I notice, people, but get out of that phone sometimes. We have kids that can't even talk to each other. They'll be in the same room, and if they get free time, they'll say, can I text my friend? No, you're sitting right there in the same room. No, you cannot. They don't know how to look you in the eye or communicate with you properly because they're stuck in that phone. But they need a book in their hands. And then you could create, like my students would read a book and do a shoebox project where you have a list of elements that you need to pick out: the main character, the climax, the resolution, and then you have to pick out pictures that go with it to decorate on the outside of the box. And then on the inside of the box, you have to put things in there too. Like one student read a book on a doctor, so she had a stethoscope inside of it, and she had a prescription for something. So there are different ways that you can make that come alive. Right. Vision boards. Right. But they must stay active, because that writing, please help us out there. That writing is terrible, because they think that they should write properly the way that they text, and that's not good at all.
I've been saying that texting and frankly email has just butchered the English language, at least the one I learned, in terms of punctuation, how to make us, the 5-paragraph structure, all that's just gone. And it's terrible that I hear you say that, but I do think that's a big part of our problem, right? We now speak in fragments. Oh, yeah. Rarely Definitely. Do you hear a full sentence developed, even in conversational English, not like it used to be.
Yes. And it's sad, because, I will tell mine that, even on a job, if you don't go to college and you're looking for a job, they will ask you, why should we hire you? Right. You got to be able to write complete sentences, because if you don't, you can't put LOL. Right. IDK, it doesn't work. So you have to show people at all times how intelligent you are in the way you think, and don't just write, because you must give examples of what you're trying to convey.
Right. Right. But, back to the internet and Wi-Fi in particular. So, I'm excited that this particular company has committed to putting it all over the city, regardless of economic, median household income by rooftop and all that kind of stuff. So I'm very excited.
Okay.
I hope that it comes out exactly as I believe it's been promised. But you don't always know, right? So I'm certainly not, But you're right. I can go to Khan Academy and I can literally learn anything that I want to learn, but just as well as if it were a PhD program at Harvard. In fact, many of the professors from Harvard are teaching on these sites.
That's a wonderful website, by the way.
It is. It's overwhelming, and I guess the story. It started with a guy just trying to tutor his niece in math. So he happened to be a professor at, I think it was Harvard, and his niece was, I believe, in India. I may be wrong about that, but he was just trying to tutor her, and there was such a distance that he couldn't help, and so they started doing this. He started recording it because of a time difference, and behold, it was born. Just that simple.
It's just absolutely wonderful.
Which is why you've got to start doing your own line of rap with all the English rules and everything else, just to try, like Schoolhouse Rock for a new generation.
Well, I was a member. I've written children's books too, and I was a member of an association, and we had a seminar, and the gentleman who worked at ABC with Schoolhouse Rock was there. And he was the one that created it.
Right,
he created it because his son hated school. But if I put it to music and make it fun, then he'll remember it. So, I even show grammar rock, conjunction, junction, what's your function? And the kids are like, getting into it. And so it does work.
Yeah. All right, so I got to
But you got to help me. You got to help me now. So I get you on the mic in some of these raps, okay? Or in the videos.
First of all, I've got 3 notes. What you hear, one upper and one lower. That's it. That's all. I'm a doo-wop guy. So I give you all the doo-wops you need.
Well, I can write one where you have to come in with your doo-wop.
I'll be happy to do that all day long. But you're not telling me everything about yourself. You're also a children's book author. What else? I just need to ask you a list of all these things that you've done. Martin Luther King Jr., Foundation Commissioner for the state, a great teacher, a rap artist in her own right, a children's book author. What am I missing? What are you not telling me that I should know before we even go to any further in this interview?
Well, I don't know. I'm not a race car driver.
There you go.
I'm not a politician.
Who is a politician, right?
No, God has just given me several gifts, and I feel like sharing them to make the world a better place is my duty.
You're right.
And so I don't want anybody to take it as bragging, but because sometimes I just kind of myself, I'm like, did I just do that? I have done some acting. I'm spokesperson for Rocky Mount Toyota.
There you go.
So I love the commercials on television and radio.
Well, let's go back to that sense of duty because I think that's interesting to me. Obviously you have all these talents and you're willing to share them, and you really clearly enjoy watching the feedback that you're getting from the kids and those around you, right?
Yes.
Otherwise you wouldn't do any of it. So where did that sense of duty come from? Because that's a big deal too. This need, desire to want to give back, right? Not everybody has that.
Well, when I see kids who one semester it's like failing, and then they turn around the light comes on, and they change it. That's my motivation. That's like a lottery ticket for me, and I sincerely mean that. I can see the changes in behavior. I can see the changes in the grade. I can see if we have community service projects, I can see more involvement. So that is what motivates me. That's why I know when God puts something in my heart, I pray over it, and then I let it go because He's in charge. So when certain lyrics come up or activities come up, that's where it comes from. Just go with it. Don't fight it.
Sure. No, I get it. But
that's it.
But this duty too, right? That has to speak to your upbringing, your mom and others around you. So
my mom and dad were really very strict. And I, of course, when you're going through it, so I can such and such, but I appreciate it so much because that structure, that's how I am in my classroom. I'm very structured, pretty much do some things the same way so the kids don't get discombobulated and say, well, I don't know how to do this. They can pretty much run by themselves.
Right.
But they gave me lots of love, and I believe in incentives.
Yes.
Like for good grades, I have a contact with Bojangles, and I brought you some too. Some
awesome.
Coupons for Bowberry biscuits and
Lord, I'm trying to go the other
Hardee's
direction.
and all these different places. And I teamed up with Walmart.
Right.
And so for Halloween, all of my students receive pajamas.
Awesome.
So I believe in including the community and doing what I'm doing. The CFNC College Foundation, they send me pencils. I ask for pencils, brochures, anything that I can give them to help them get better.
Well, you're really building a sense of community is what you're doing and all that. And I appreciate the coupons. Is there any in there for liposuction? Because that's the direction I'm trying to go.
Sorry, I don't have any for those. I could get you to where you need liposuction with food coupons, but...
Maybe I just couldn't put the fork in my mouth. Maybe
you
that'll solve
great.
my problem.
You look great.
I wasn't fishing a compliment, I promise. But anyway. So look, thank you so much for being the treasure you are in the community. And I want to ask you one last question, and that is, what can members of the community do to help and support you, help and support our teachers as a whole and our educational system? I mean, you're out there doing the work. You're toting the water for all of us. So what can we do to help you?
Just really guide your children at home.
Right.
Half of the problems that we have would not be happening at the school if they were guided at home. Now, you hear all kinds of, well, I have to work. Well, I understand that.
Right.
But these are your children who will make a difference in anybody's community if they have the foundation laid at home. So when they come to us, we are teaching.
Yeah.
We are not disciplining them.
Right.
And that's the part that's so frustrating, especially now with COVID, that when they just lifted the mask, but keep the mask up and do this and that, because you're around other people who live in other places, around other people, and if we get sick because you come in there with it, then you're right back to ground zero, because the substitute doesn't really know how to teach it to you. They're just giving you the papers to keep you busy.
Right.
So if you would just create some activities, such as if you bought a notebook for your child and you asked your child to write down 2 sentences about how they felt that day, or 2 things they wanted to achieve every day, or just change up the subject matter. You can Google those. Writing prompts. Go to Google, writing prompts for 8th grade. It'll give you all kinds of subjects that can be asked, and let them keep that journal. That way they are writing and they are thinking and they are analyzing. They don't even realize it. And then you're able to also know how they actually feel about something, where they might not tell you, but they will write it. So if you would do that with your kids and tell them one day you're going to be adults.
That's right.
You got to remember that. You got to treat people right. Treat people how you want to be treated. So that character education is important, along with those basic skills of reading and writing, and that's going to help them grow, even though maybe they didn't have a math teacher this year. Get on the internet. There are some free programs and websites where they can practice. Readtheory.org is wonderful.
Right. Well, look, thank you. God bless you.
Thank you. God bless you. And thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Anytime.
It's great seeing you again.
You too.